SUI has easily been one of the strongest major market cap cryptos this bull market cycle, and I believe it's the chosen one, the one that market participants and market makers have chosen to get behind and ride all the way up to at least $27.24 by the end of this bull market cycle. And by the way, that's my base case scenario, because the bull case that I have takes this token to upwards of $40. Now, on January 1st of this year, SUI was sitting at rank number 77 by market cap. In other words, it was just another layer one crypto that got a lot of funding. However, if you scroll on over to CoinMarketCap right now, SUI is currently sitting at 15 by market cap, overtaking 62 other cryptos just this year alone. It's no longer a small contender for market share, mind share, inflows, and volume. Now, in the world of crypto, it's already difficult to make the top 100 by market cap, as you would need at least a $1 billion market cap. But to make the top 20, you would need closer to a $10 billion market cap. And my prediction is that by the end of this bull market cycle, SUI will be within the top 7 by market cap as it continues to gain steam into 2027. So the reality is, we already know it's likely not going to surpass Bitcoin, Ethereum, or potentially even Tether, but it could surpass anything like Binance, Solana, or Dogecoin. So in this video, I'll explain some of the reasons SUI will reach that price target I mentioned earlier, and how the team has set this blockchain up to win long-term from a fundamental perspective. In other words, that means actual adoption, real people using this blockchain for real use cases and purposes. I'll dive into the price action. And as always, if you're feeling blessed and bullish, comment 777. And if you're going to be the wealthiest person in your family tree, smash the subscribe button. Hello and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Paul. You can find me on Twitter at PauliDeFi, PauliDeFi. And really quickly before we begin the video, because it is so time sensitive, if you are wanting to become a crypto millionaire in 2025, again, we're just around to the start of this new year. We have about 10 days left in the year, then head on over to bullrunners.com for the best platform and educational resource on the planet. Currently, we have over 1,000 members now. The price is sitting at $97 a month. Now, the reason this sounds pretty affordable is considering the fact that we are going to be raising the price on January 1st to $197 a month. And this is to sift and sort through the chaff and the wheat, so to speak, because we already have so many members and we host live calls all the time where people have all sorts of questions that we answer, things that we simply can't get to on the channel. And so we want to make sure that we build one of the best, most committed communities on planet Earth when it comes to crypto. And already we have hundreds of hours of education and courses. We have thousands of members who are constantly chatting and communicating, people again who are paying to be here, who are very serious, who are sharing all sorts of alpha. But it's not just them, it's also our pros and experts sharing altcoin picks that 5x, 10x, 50x, and sometimes even 100x. We're going to be teaching you how to do technical analysis like a pro, and like the stuff we do here on this channel from all of our experts. We're going to be showing you how to get access to the best DeFi yields on the planet. In other words, you can put your crypto to work for you versus just letting it sit in your wallet, and we'll be giving you airdrop alerts. Now, that's not all you will get on the other side, which is why you should watch this 26-minute video if that sounds interesting to you. But again, you're going to want to do it sooner rather than later, because the $97 a month is going up to $197 a month. And if you get started before January 1st, you will be grandfathered into that rate. You're going to be locked in for good. So there is an incentive to get started sooner rather than later. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain by checking it out. Go to bullrunners.com, check that out. Now let's get into the video. Okay, so let's dive into it. I believe that SUI as a layer one blockchain has one of the most stacked teams in all of crypto. They recently had a competitor called Aptos that was also using the Move language, which is really just a parallel blockchain and a more efficient way to scale a blockchain. But as things stand, SUI is really taking the cake, and now Move has found its new king, as SUI is now worth twice as much as Aptos, and recently the founder or CEO of Aptos left. Now, there's a lot of rumors and speculation as to why that occurred, but at the end of the day, it truly does look like SUI is going to win the race in terms of Move language blockchains. Now, I don't want to confuse you too much if that all sounds a little bit too much like technical jargon. That said, you have one of the most stacked teams in all of crypto, and more specifically, you have Evan Cheng, the co-founder and CEO, alongside Adeniyi Abiodun, very interesting name, also the co-founder and I believe one of the more technical heads. Actually, both of them are very technical. That said, Evan Cheng was the former head of research and development at Novi and technical director of Meta. And then Sam Blackshear over here was also a chief engineer at Novi and in the Move programming language. They all have a deep research. I mean, you got Adeniyi sitting here at JP Morgan, Oracle, HSBC. You have people who've worked at Meta, Microsoft, and all sorts of other crypto and blockchain companies. That said, to give you the quick lowdown and rundown, Facebook, or now the company called Meta, has some of the best developers on the planet. Back in the day, they tried to launch their own crypto called Libra. That failed. Then they renamed it or rebranded it called Diem. That also failed because of regulators. Regulators simply didn't want a company that big, having that much power and having their own token inside of their own ecosystems for Facebook and Instagram. So that said, eventually these guys had spent so much time building out the Move language and the blockchain to the point where they're like, screw it, we're going to leave and build this for ourselves. And that's exactly what they did. And they did such a dang good job that they are actually the fastest blockchain on the planet. SUI has a network of 100 globally distributed validators, achieving peak throughput ranging from 10.8K TPS to 297,000 TPS on various workloads. Now, this would be more of like a theoretical TPS. They all have theoretical TPSs. However, when you look at the majority of blockchains from Solana, Algorand, Ripple, Phantom, Avalanche, Nano, Stellar, Cardano, Polygon, and even Elrond, the majority of them have a 15K TPS, 7K TPS, 250, 1,000, 4,500, and even XRP sitting at 1,500 TPS with an average time to finality or transaction speed of 3 to 5 seconds. However, when you look at SUI, based on its Mystichetti upgrade, it became the lowest latency blockchain in history with only 390 milliseconds to consensus. What that means is we have a time to finality. The moment you click the button to send a transaction, whether it's for money or whether it's going to be for gaming, it is under a second when that thing is finalized in the blockchain. And this is a huge upgrade, especially when we talk about SUI Play. SUI Play is going to be their gaming ecosystem where they've partnered with a hardware developer to actually bring gaming to the world. Currently, there are 3-some billion gamers and only 40 million crypto wallets. That said, if you actually bring blockchain to gaming, this is going to be tremendous. And I believe that SUI has the technology and the background and the team to truly deliver. So this is truly exciting stuff. Even if you're not a gamer, at the end of the day, this is going to onboard and on-ramp a lot of folks into the SUI ecosystem, and they won't even have to know that SUI is being used in the background. But at the end of the day, it's going to pump our bags. And then we are going to rapid fire some other really cool announcements, like the fact that SUI is now taking over e-commerce. SUI apps and e-commerce stores can now accept USDC without the need for a third party. And also they'll be able to seamlessly swap between ETH, Sol, and 8 other majors. SUI is now becoming a financial hub. Or just the fact that recently SUI hosted 60 plus developers from over 300 applicants from 14 different countries for their Bangkok Hacker House. And you can go over to the SUI Twitter or X page to check it out. But since that point in time, they were able to create an impressive 30 projects. So these 30 projects would be applications or web apps, or better yet, dApps, decentralized applications that if they are useful and valuable, then guess what? It's going to onboard a heck of a lot more liquidity and get a lot more attention and traction and eyeballs. And ultimately that money is going to flow into what? The underlying token, SUI. And now, just recently, SUI has announced that they are harnessing the power of AI, which is supercharging the productivity and efficiency of developers and builders. And here is a post directly from SUI where they break down how they're creating next gen solutions powered by the synergy and AI and blockchain, which again, we don't have the time to dive into this video. So if you want to check that out, go over to the SUI. And finally, here is a post directly from Adeniyi over at SUI, one of the developers. And here he shares with one of how their developers explains the network.
The best platform for you to use to solve your coordination problem, because it comes with a lot of features that you already need out of the box, is SUI. And that's not just because, you can write a smart contract and it does stuff. That's one thing, of course, right? But also if we take the example, let's say again, of Walrus, even the things that are not in SUI, right? Let's say the storage nodes that are separate from SUI, they still need to coordinate with each other. And our best bet, we believe, is to coordinate through SUI, right? To say, well, look, okay, we're all going to be reading and writing state from SUI, doing transactions, reading state, expressing things as resources when it makes sense, and that drives effectively that off-chain infrastructure, right? So it's not just that you coordinate by writing a smart contract. That's very straightforward, right? I mean, that's like a DEX or something, that's great. But you can also coordinate through SUI off-chain activities. And, our ambition there has no end. This is the important thing here. Like, okay, we have SUI, you can do stuff on chain, like by writing smart contracts. You can have some technical infrastructures off chain, like Walrus, let's say. But what else could you have off chain that is coordinated through the chain? Could you have much more complex, for example, supply chain networks, where you have some folks that produce 3D print stuff, for example, and some other folks that have designs that they would like to 3D print, and some other folks who are actually running vans and transport networks in between. And suddenly, boom, you can write a smart contract that does the payments, and you upload your 3D designs on Walrus, and boom, you get a few quotes automatically about who's ready to print it and who's ready to transport it. And when you see the whole thing that you like, you're like, okay, go, commit to that whole thing in a PTB. And then the next day you receive your 3D printed stuff. And suddenly lots of different players can coordinate through SUI effectively to actually do all that. SUI is your best bet as a platform in order to basically start thinking, how do I solve my coordination problem?
So think about what he just said. Now it's not just gaming that they can make more efficient on blockchain or AI applications. It's also off-chain applications, things like supply chain issues, which would be more efficient on chain. The problem is with the current blockchain systems and infrastructures, you simply can't do all of this stuff off chain and then write the code after the fact. With SUI, you can do something like that. With SUI, a lot of these real world applications can be brought to life in a very effective and efficient manner. And the blockchain or the platform to do this on would be SUI. So I don't see any reason after sharing all of this news with anyone where they couldn't say that SUI is one of the best blockchains on planet Earth, hands down, bar none. And already it's showing in the price. As you can see here, on December 20th, we had quite a sell-off and a scare or a panic in the markets. And this was due to the fact that Jerome Powell made some very interesting statements surrounding the economy and surrounding interest rates. That said, everything started selling off. And we saw even SUI dump about 24% in a very short period of time. This is a 4-hour time frame. So if I were to put on a daily time frame, it was literally over a period of like 2 days, we saw the market crash or collapse. And then in that same period of time, you saw SUI experience a stupid amount of buy pressure, so much so that in a very short period of time, it went from about $3.48, and I'll take this tool right here and drag it all the way up, and it went all the way up to $4.90 for a 40% gain in just 24 hours. Now, since that period in time, it is down a little bit from the high of 35% up down to 20% up. However, when you look at its strength relative to things like Bitcoin has only seen a 3.6% gain. Ethereum is up only 7%. Heck, even Solana is only up about 3.9%. And if you take one of the stronger performers as of recently, Aave is only up 14% from those local lows. So when you look at the relative strength or performance, you can see that not only did SUI pump harder, which is these candles or the price action that you're seeing right now, but it's currently still up far more even in its local intermediate term downtrend. So the real question you might have is, when should you start entering SUI and when will it hit that $27 range? Well, the reality is I am more focused on price targets than I am on timeframes, because no one would have expected the Fed to make such an egregious statement and then for markets to collapse. And when markets dump as hard as they did, we'll just take one look at Bitcoin, then you can reasonably expect that it requires some time to gain some steam and momentum yet again. Right here we had a breakout above a range. As you can see, Bitcoin broke out about above 100K up to $108,000 and then just absolutely tanked over the course of 1, 2, and 3 straight days down to $92,000, which looks to be a pretty strong support now. That said, that does not mean that we are completely out of the woods just yet, as Bitcoin is continuing to sell off just slightly over the next couple of days. And it is very much possible that we could see the market retrace a little bit further or deeper. So when you look at something like SUI, where not only does it actually dump all of this way, then get spot right back up to its previous or local high at 490, you can reasonably say or assume that SUI truly does have a market maker and a market behind it. A lot of strong demand, whether it's from institutional investors or even retail investors, because Bitcoin did not do anything nearly as strong as this. As you can see, Bitcoin dumped and is currently dumping back into its local low range, whereas SUI dumped, got bought right back up, and is chilling above its recent resistance. Okay, what used to be a resistance over here now becomes a support. Then when I pull up a 10 and 20 EMA on a daily time frame, you can see that consistently at that 20 EMA, any wick below would have been a good or a strong time to buy. This was the very first time that we got a serious breakdown on a daily time frame below the 20 EMA, except for potentially barely right here, which is arguable. Right here, you can see that we had a breakdown only to have a nasty, probably one of the nastiest bear traps that I've seen in a while. People are trapped into being bearish right here, only to see the market break right back above. And so much so that I think a lot of people FOMO'd into this move right here for a 40-some% gain, full well thinking, oh, we are back in strong territory. But from a daily time frame, this does not look ultimately that strong. So I would like to see, and I'll go ahead and go down to a 4-hour or even an hourly time frame. I would like to see a legitimate breakout, okay? First and foremost, I'd like to see us supported above that 10 and 20 EMA on a daily time frame, which we'll look at here shortly. But I'd also like to see the market actually sustain the momentum above this downtrend. As you can see, we've had a few bull traps right here, a series of highs that would get you to think, okay, this thing's ready to break out. However, if Bitcoin continues to sell off, it's going to be extremely difficult for something like SUI to also break out. And then when you also take a look, and I'll go ahead and remove those drawings, when you also take a look at the fact that this now becomes our local high, this becomes our next local high, this high is lower than this high, and this low is lower than this low, this becomes an intermediate term downtrend. I can reasonably expect a bit more sell pressure somewhere down to that $4 range. And so I'm really looking at the next area of support that I can actually buy with some conviction, and I would argue it is down at that $3.99 to $4 range right over here, considering these would be our local lows. And yes, we are on a daily time frame now, so on the daily time frame, if we continue to break into this range, this is not really healthy from a long-term perspective. So although I might buy the dip here, if the market becomes weaker and weaker and weaker, I'm actually just going to wait and be patient. Sometimes the fortune is made in the patience. So being patient will actually pay off. I'll go ahead and delete those drawings. And so what's most important to me is that if SUI is going to maintain this strong uptrend, not only do we get a very strong support and a potential wick to the downside, only to get bought right back up above this 20 EMA, but we have to remain above the 20 EMA on a daily time frame. If we break down, as you can see here, we will break down further and be low, and we're going to get a crossover on the 10 and 20 EMA, or in similar fashion, like right back here. So I would like to see SUI supported above the 20 EMA right now. Now on the upside, if we break out above this trend line, and I'll go ahead and go back to the hourly. If we break out above this trend line with some volume to support it, as you can see here, we had nothing but declining volume, even with the spike in growth in terms of buy volume. Ultimately, volume has now declined since this range. I would like to see volume increase into a breakout, which means I'd like to see more big green candles similar to what we saw right here. And if we see that, then I will say, okay, I would like to buy, because guess what? A breakout above 480 would be imminent. And guess what? 480 would be the zone that I would like to buy heavily into a new all-time high. Now that said, long term, again, when in doubt, zoom out. It really pays off to pay attention. When in doubt, zoom out. We are really just putting in new higher highs and higher lows from a longer term time frame, which is why my target for something like SUI would be at least $27, considering all of the traction that it's getting. Now, why $27? Well, I'll go ahead and just draw it out right here. As you can see here, I'm putting in a fib scale from that local high down to the local low. And when I zoom out, again, here is how this fib works. Okay, the 1618 would be a major range of take profit for a lot of people. But I think this thing has got some serious legs and momentum, which is why I think this thing is going to bust right through, and by the end of the bull run could at least hit $27.23, which really isn't that big of a percentage gain from here, considering if you were to buy right now and go all in with your bags, let's just go ahead and drag this tool over, that's still only a 500% gain. Now 500% is a lot. You toss $100,000 in there, you're sitting on $600,000, my friend. But at the end of the day, that is not that big compared to many other cryptos where you could get a lot more risk. Here's the thing, with this you have a strong risk adjusted return because it's not a meme coin. Meme coins can give you 500% in a couple of weeks. However, with something like SUI, you're in a very safe place, and I would argue buying any dip below $5 is still a very strong play. So whether or not you want to buy another dip, whether you want to wait a little longer like I am, or whether you say, screw it, I like the tech, I think this thing's got potential and legs, especially seeing this strong trend, ultimately I'd like to buy, well then perfect, go ahead and enter, because I believe this thing's going to hit $27. Now that is not financial advice. This isn't me telling you what to do with your portfolio. I'm just making this video for educational and informational purposes only. That said, I do believe 27 is in the cards. So thanks so much for watching this video, my friend. And one last time, if you haven't already, head on over to bullrunners.com to check out Altcoin Pro University, which really gives you your best shot at becoming a crypto millionaire. Not only will we share plays like SUI and more in-depth technical analysis, but we'll be sharing all sorts of altcoin picks, that 5x, 10x, 20x, 50x, whatever. We have over 1,000 members now, and we will be raising the price to $197 a month in just 10 short days when the month closes on January 1st. If you get started before then, you are grandfathered in or locked in at that rate. So you have nothing to lose and everything to gain by simply checking it out, trying it out for a month. And by the way, we have all sorts of curated classes from experts. We have hundreds of hours of them that we're going to consistently add and update. We have live calls where you can engage with our pros and experts and people like me real time. You can ask all sorts of questions, which is actually why we're raising the price, because we have so many members now. We want to make sure that we sift and sort through the people that are actually serious and want to be here. And guess what? If you're involved in a community of people that are actually serious, you're going to get all sorts of alpha from them as well. We're going to show you to do technical analysis like a pro, get airdrops, take advantage of the best DeFi yields in the space, so on and so forth. So that said, go to bullrunners.com. I look forward to seeing you in the next video, my friend. Be sure to subscribe if you learned something new, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.